So in this video, I'm going to talk about why viral infections can't be treated with antibiotics. And this is an important point because many people are prescribed antibiotics when they have viral infections. And not only is this ineffective, but it can also be dangerous. So to start, I'm going to talk about the difference between bacteria, which can be treated with antibiotics, and viruses, which cannot. So bacteria, we'll put bacteria over here, and we will put viruses over here. Okay, so starting with bacteria. Bacteria, they are cellular, they are cells. So they are living things, okay? And all bacteria have, or most bacteria have all of the same components, okay? They share common features. I'm just going to draw them in and then we will label them. Okay. Now, this here, this is called a cell membrane. All cells have cell membranes. All living things have cell membranes. This out here is a very important structure called the cell wall. And we will see why it's so important in a little bit. These guys are also important. They are called ribosomes. These are basically little factories that make proteins. Okay, and then this is the genetic material. This is the chromosome. Okay? So most bacteria will have all of these common features. And these features are what make antibiotics effective, because we can target these features, and I'll talk about that in a second. Now, viruses are not living things. They are not cells. They're very simple. And really they are just composed of two main parts. All viruses have these two components. Some have other things, but all viruses have these two components. The first one is genetic material. Just like we have genetic material in our cells, all living things have genetic material. Viruses have genetic material. Okay, and this material can be either DNA or a cousin of DNA called RNA. Okay, so you have DNA viruses and you have RNA viruses. Now, another feature that all viruses share is an outer coat of protein. Okay, this is an outer coat of protein that surrounds that genetic material, and this is called the capsid, which is just a protein coat. So all viruses have this genetic material that's wrapped in this coat of protein called the capsid. Now, as you can see, there are already some big differences between bacteria and viruses, okay? And it's these portions of the bacterial cells that allow antibiotics to work, and that's the same reason why they don't work against viruses. So let's go back to the cell wall. This is a really important structure for bacteria. They really need it for survival in the human body. So when you take that away or you prevent it from being produced, the cells die. And some drugs that do that are things like the penicillin family of antibiotics. Also, the cephalosporins. Okay, they target this cell wall. They inhibit this cell wall from being made. Okay, and that's really, really important. Obviously, viruses don't have this cell wall, and therefore they are unaffected by these antibiotics. Now, these ribosomes are also important. So drugs like the tetracycline family of antibiotics, things like doxycycline and those types of drugs, and also the macrolides. So these would be things like erythromycin and azithromycin, which is the Z-Pak. They target these ribosomes that are inside of these bacterial cells. And again, viruses don't have these, so antibiotics are they have no effect on viruses. There are other antibiotics that will target certain enzymes inside of the cell as well as the cell membrane. But again, none of these have an effect on viruses. Okay? So treating a viral infection with antibiotics does nothing. Even if you're trying to prevent a secondary bacterial infection, that's really not always the best choice. Okay? And now I'm going to explain why this is such an issue and possibly dangerous. Okay? So each of these circles represents a bacterial cell. Okay. And this bacteria we're going to say is Streptococcus pneumoniae. Very important human pathogen. So it causes pneumonia, it causes meningitis. However, some people actually have this living in the back of their nasal passage normally. So it's called the normal flora for some of these people. Okay, so a percentage of the population actually is colonized with this, but it doesn't cause any problems. Now, it can cause problems, if the person becomes sick or immunocompromised, these guys can kind of move down into the lungs and cause pneumonia, but normally it doesn't cause any problems in these people. So, say somebody has a common cold, and they are prescribed antibiotics. What's going to happen is those antibiotics are going to kill off these bacterial cells. Okay. However, every once in a while, you have one that hangs around. Okay. And that's because he's naturally resistant to that antibiotic. And what happens is now he has all this room to grow and grow and grow. So he keeps multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. And now say, somewhere down the road, this person gets an infection like pneumonia, and they try to treat it with those antibiotics, it's not going to work. The antibiotic will not work because this bug is resistant. Okay, so it's a really important public health issue, and healthcare professionals need to take charge and not overprescribe antibiotics and educate themselves to understand why overprescribing antibiotics is dangerous, and hopefully we will have much less of a problem as far as antibiotic resistance in the future.